it's okay. I'm streaming now. I'm recording. There we go.
Recording in progress.
All right, you good? You all set?
I'm good.
All
Are
right. Hey,
you
everybody.
good?
Welcome to the Trailer Punk Podcast. My name is Justin Hamline, and I have my brother here, Jared Hamline.
Yes. As a small child, I ate a torpedo pop so fast I gagged on the stick. Hello, my name is Jared. I'm the inventor of the tongue depressor.
Sounds good. Oh, that's great. And okay, so we're going to talk about, we'll start with Come and See. I think that one's
Oof.
a little bit more detailed. There's a
Yeah,
lot to take in. So
absolutely.
it's Come and See. It's a Soviet, is it Belarusian film from 1985. It's an anti-war film. I saw some guy say that he doesn't think it's anti-war, but I think it is. I think it really shows that the effects of how horrible war can be. I don't know. What do you think? What's your take on the part?
It's really hard to say because when people start making assumptions like that,
Yeah,
they're inserting themselves in a part of history that they didn't have any sort of say
right.
or like any sort of recollection in. Because whenever the director was actually making it, he's coming from a place who actually survived it. So with him, to speak for the director who actually went through the events
Right.
would be a little, um, yeah, a little, I guess it would say, probably needless on my part, and I wouldn't have that sort of perspective that
No,
he
I
would
agree.
because
And I think coming in at, I mean, I watch and read a lot of anti-war stuff coming from just a place where it's like, I really don't want to be there. I want to see
yes.
it kind of through their eyes, but I also, it's the curiosity, which I think kind of it
Hmm.
details it later on in the movie, which we'll go into it, where you kind of have this curiosity and you kind of want to go into it, but you're kind of going, oh, this is not a good thing. This is not a good place to
No,
be.
but he did pull his punches,
No, absolutely.
and I think in a way, it's the way he drags us into it.
Yeah.
You could take it as an anti-war movie, but you could also see it as very much a human story, a social like construct,
Yeah.
government, all sorts of different like, so it's hard to be like, yes, you are anti-war while at the same time he's literally just poking holes in everything from like masculinity, chauvinism, religion,
Yeah.
politics, all sorts of things. So
Right.
all while putting it from a human perspective. Not saying other war movies don't do that, but this one, it rings differently
It does.
than some of the
Because
other ones we've seen.
this one, it really it's just a bomb of subjects, like from anything and everything. And I know it's like if you watch like Johnny Got His Gun or you read it,
Yeah,
it's kind of on this character and
and
everything
it's
that he,
straightforward.
right, it's
Yeah.
very straightforward in what he's been through. But this one, it's like the the character, I mean, you're going through the eyes of the main character pretty much. Either it's like through his eyes or you're almost like coming in at it um from like another perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like you're his
Right.
friend and you're kind of in the moment, right?
Right. Well, it's you're a witness, just
Yeah, there
like
you go. That's what I
everything
want.
else is a
Yeah,
witness, because I mean, there's two other witnesses to everything going on. You
of course.
have
Yeah.
that overhead plane,
Yep.
and then you also have the stork.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so
We'll go
you're
into the
there
work a little
too.
bit later, but yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so it's like you're brought into and you get to see it from his perspective, and everybody tends to talk about it like, I think what a lot of people miss, they see the bigger picture, but they're like not focusing in on the central aspect, which is he's a fucking kid.
The kid.
like
The
like
That's what really I think nails the whole story home where it's uh I mean, yeah, we'll kind of go into it a little bit more, but yeah, he's a kid. Like it's mind-boggling. Yeah, let's go. We'll go ahead and start
Yeah,
diving in.
go for it.
The director is it Alem Klimov?
Elon Klimov.
Yeah, and then starring Alexei Krivenchko. I'm bad with Russian. I hope that sounds right.
Revengeko.
Yes, thank you.
Kravchenko. Sorry,
Yeah, that's it.
Kravchenko.
And well, a lot of it is based on stories from a 1971 novel. Is it Khatyn Catton? Bad with Russian. And then
I didn't
more
even.
testimonials from I am from the fiery village.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so let's go ahead and dive in. So come and see. I kind of the way I kind of did the notes is I
Yeah.
have it what went on. Let's see, we got the beach, we got the house, we got the camp,
Yeah.
the woods, all that. So let's go ahead and
So
start.
we're gonna go by category.
We'll just do yeah. We'll go with what
Yeah, that
if
sounds
that sounds
good.
good to
I
you.
like that.
So
So
go ahead.
good.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, I was listening to like a an audiobook while I was at work
Hmm.
uh, the other day, whenever this was after we talked about it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And what struck me was that it was an audiobook about Ed Gein.
Oh, really? Okay.
And
Cool.
so there was the author is Harold Schechter.
Okay.
And so he said about Ed Gein's parents, he said their marriage had a quality of a lacerating nightmare.
Oof.
And then I literally stopped it and I was just like, that sounds a lot like Come and See. It's
Yeah, a
just
little bit.
this lacerating nightmare with
I
its
agree.
like surrealist and it's just it drags you in and it
Mhm.
guts you.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, I saw that and I was
Well,
just
that's
like,
perfect. It's
I'm
perfect. That's
like,
a perfect quote for it,
that's
where it really nails it home. I think so.
absolutely.
So the movie starts off with an old man on the beach, and he's telling the kids to not dig. I
Yeah,
think that's kind of like it starts off, there's kind of this warning at the beginning of it where it's like,
yeah.
guys, quit digging. You're either, you can say it is you're digging up the past, or you're digging your own grave, or you're digging your own path, whatever. But he's just like, stop digging. What did you get from that moment?
What I got from that is that you could see it as like foreshadowing
Mhm.
literally from the get-go.
Absolutely.
But it also comes across as like every fucking kid has had that parent
Yep.
that's just like, you're gonna
Mhm.
regret this. And most kids are just like, yeah, 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 all right.
And
I
you
mean,
kind of,
that guy did have a whip in his hand. I mean,
yeah,
I'm guessing it was for the pony in the cart, but at the same time, you're like, what's that guy gonna do with it? Because I wouldn't
right,
come up with bushes either if that's
right. But then
but
you
yeah,
also
you could
got,
take it as both because you
right.
still have to see it like he is a kid. He was literally 14 whenever he got the role, and then he was 15 doing the entire movie.
That's
So
insane.
it's like, okay, so we got to look at it from a kid's perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's
So
the thing with
both,
him and his friend. Like his friend is basically mocking him the entire time, doesn't he? His
yeah,
friend
the old
comes
guy,
up and
because he's
changes
the
his voice,
village elder.
"Huh,"
Yeah.
and he's more or less mocking him, and they're kind of making fun of the old man. And then the friend starts acting like more or less like a sergeant or a commander of some sort.
Yeah, at first he was like doing the village elder who they
Hmm.
thought was an absolute idiot. And then
Right.
they're like, ah, and then it just kind of segues into like a German sort of like
Yeah,
uh,
German commander. Yeah, something like that. Digging holes for scraps and weapons. What did you take? I mean, I know I'm kind of going bit by bit,
no,
but
you're good. I
there's so much that they kind
we're
of
just,
in there.
right.
And like when they're digging up, just either it was like uh a past battle that happened on that beach, but
Yeah.
again, it's you kind of feel like they're just digging, they're pulling things out of what once was, or like a battle of some sort, or I don't know. Like, what do
Yeah.
you think? You
So so like while that's going on, you just kind of realize everything is just weirdly like cartoonishly colored.
of course,
So
yeah.
like the greens are this weird sort of like
Hmm.
muted sort of,
Yeah.
it almost looks like those like hand painted cells whenever you're like
A
watching the
bit.
silent
Yeah,
movies
yeah,
where
yeah.
it's like they had to hand paint each one and that was colored.
Yeah.
But it almost seems like that while this is going on. So it kind of adds a sort of weird layer to it because it doesn't seem fully real.
Right.
Like maybe a storybook or something. I don't
It's
know.
like kids
I'm
playing in
like,
the sand, like a sand pit or a sandbox.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so like they're literally just playing and he's looking and I think the feeling that I got from it, and I'm like double checking my notes here,
No, you're
is
good.
that it's like it's sword in the stone.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
if he's like any kid who was like our age, okay, we got to see it from a kid's perspective.
Hmm.
Every kid, especially boys
Hmm.
from a very young age, they're like, you have to be a warrior and adventurer. Look at all this.
Yep.
And it's
Mhm.
like, that's what you do for the country. And
Yep.
especially around that
On
time,
that time,
there's
yeah,
a
absolutely.
lot of propaganda to like, do your part, do this. And so, like, him coming into that weird phase where it's like you're not really too much of a kid anymore, but at the same time, you're kind of an adult,
Yep.
or at least starting to come
Starting to come,
into
yeah.
that, especially since World War II, they were a lot of the younger kids were starting to fudge numbers. Like even in World War One, they did
Mhm.
that. Like
Yeah.
14-year-olds going into battle. Like there's a lot of documentaries and stuff like that to where it's like teenagers literally signing up and he's like 15 but he's kind of like this, he's kind of naive like even
Okay.
his mom knows it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And so he sees it as like, yeah, this is like from the books he's reading, like I'm going to find a random gun, this
Yep.
the sword in the stone type thing, and I'm gonna go out there and I'm just
Yeah.
gonna like get some bad guys and save the day and get myself a princess and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. What kind of struck me a little bit
Yeah.
is when I think it was when they heard the bomber, they
Yeah.
dived into the hole and his friend was kind of joking, and you look over and you see the main character. I'm trying to get his name. I
Prada.
yeah.
Prada.
So
It's
he's pulling this gun
yeah.
out with almost like I wrote this in my notes. I'm not sure. It might be a little.
Yeah.
He's pushing like he's almost giving birth to his new path.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
Because
could
he's
kind of see
literally
the
going,
way he was
"Ugh," and his
grunting, but
friend is like freaked out because he's pulling with every bit of emotion in his body to get that gun out. And
yeah.
it's almost like he's almost birthing this sort of new path that and his friend's like, his
Yeah,
friend
he went from like
Alpine.
playing to he's just like, the hell are you doing? Like,
Right. Thank you. Right.
yeah,
And it was just one of those moments where I put it down. I was like, he's birthing a new path for himself by pulling this gun out.
I like
You know what I mean?
that.
And then his friend starts acting like a dog, which I thought was kind of
Yeah.
funny.
I think that's a very common theme
I think it is.
that is in this movie. Like,
Mhm.
whenever I was just watching it recently, I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, I'll start whenever we start going through more of the
Yeah,
categories. I'll be
sure.
pulling
Yeah.
up.
And then kind of
But
ends with, yeah,
there's definitely that sort of innocence, that naive sort of like,
there is.
ooh, like if this was a kids movie, it would be like starting out to like go and like we're gonna get the Nazis and
Like,
save
yeah, like a
the
coming of
village.
age where it's like, hey, everybody, let's go. Like even
Yeah,
music kind of
it
has
could have
that,
gone any way.
right. And even but you kind of do associate like beach time, like, hey, we're having fun, we're enjoying ourselves. So there's really that sort of good and bad sort of balance with that
Mhm.
scene, you know
Right,
what
and
I
it
mean?
looked nice out. I mean, coloring like
Right.
as the exception, but yeah, you're right. You were saying like how the plane was starting to like come
Yeah.
around, and
Yeah.
that's your first sight of like, hey, you're being watched. And I think what that rang for me is that even though we're an observer,
Hmm.
like omnipresent. Like we're
Right.
there for everything, which
Yeah, we're there for the
to
whole
an
entire
extent
ride.
they can almost be that, but
Mhm.
it was just weird because they're very aware of them.
Yeah.
Like even though there's
The
what
whole
feels
time.
like a little bit
Yeah.
of fourth wall breaking.
Yeah,
With
definitely.
that, it seemed very literary, and yes, I am the type that
No, that's
will
okay.
look at books and stuff like that when it
Fine.
comes
That's
to that.
perfect.
But it was very similar to what I think would be like the picture of Big Brother from 1984,
Yeah.
and then
The
you
all
also
seeing
get
eye.
like
Yeah.
the eyes from like Great Gatsby to where it's like they're watching you. It
Mhm.
sees everything.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what that drone plane sort of like is that it sees everything. And I think like you said, he births his own
Path.
path because once he pulls that gun out and it flies overhead and it looks down and you see him with the gun,
Mm-hmm.
what are they gonna do?
Right. What else do you, what other choice?
They're gonna be like, yeah, we got guns.
Yeah. Yep. And that's how it goes. And so then you go, I mean, do you have anything else to add for the beach scene at all? No, you
That
pretty
was
much.
his dad. I thought it was a village elder. His dad's over in war,
No,
right?
I know. I'm talking about just the
Oh,
beach
okay.
scene in general.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is
No,
there
I
anything else
think
you have to add to that one? Okay. So, so we'll move on to the house.
yeah.
So the mom is losing her mind,
Oh, yeah.
finding out that not only that her son got the gun, but he's also going, I'm gonna go. I'm going to war. I'm gonna go fight, pretty much. And he's happy about it too.
Oh, yeah. He's absolutely just like,
He's smiling. That's
yeah.
it might be
It's
the only
just,
movies where he smiles is in that point where he realizes this is my new path now, and he's naively jumping aboard this thing.
oh, yeah. He's even like winking at his sisters. Like, and even when his mom's beating him, like, you're leaving me, you're going to get yourself killed.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, guys, this one,
Right.
wow,
Right.
she's so crazy, mom's
Right.
crazy.
And then I was there a mention of the husband? I know his dad was either in war
Yeah,
or he died in war. Like he's
his
currently there.
dad's over in the war. From
Okay.
what I was gathering from it is that
That's
his
what I
dad
thought.
is actually in the war, so that's the two male people
Yeah.
from their family. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, who's going to again, that comes down to like social, like your place in society. Like
Yeah.
they're men, so men have to do the men things and women gotta do the women things.
Yeah.
And so it's like what is her means of like making a living, taking care of the two twins who are very young and
Very
very
young.
like
Yeah.
vulnerable, and obviously the village would take care of them in their own way,
Of
but it's
course.
like when you're losing two parts of yourself,
Hmm.
it's hard. Yeah.
No, definitely. And one thing I put in my notes, when she goes to get the hatchet, you hear
Yeah.
the sound of the chickens freaking out because I think they're used to hearing that sound. Is when
Yeah.
they hear the hatchet come out of the drawer, they go like they you hear them freaking out. I'm like, oh my God. So the chickens are freaking out because they know the sound of the hatchet coming out, even though she wasn't going to use it on them, but they know
Yeah.
the sound, they associate that sound with someone's gonna die in the pen tonight. Okay.
Right. And the chickens, like, even whenever she was like yelling at him and he's like staring off, you could tell from that camera vantage, we're seeing from his perspective, like he's tuning her out.
Yeah,
And
he is.
he's like staring at the chickens like eat.
Yeah.
And it's like the chickens are coming to roost. So,
Yeah.
ooh, is that more
Ooh, right.
foreshadow?
Yes. Um, okay, so then the soldiers come in because they
Mhm.
want the gun, and she offers them milk,
Yeah.
and he drinks it all.
Oh yeah, just absolutely. They're just but at the same time, if you like look into that time period, they were malnourished.
They
Like
were.
they were
Yeah,
not
that's why they were
getting a
taking the
lot.
cows and the chickens and stuff because they wanted to cook it up.
Right. And so they even took some of her animals.
Yeah.
They're like, cool, this chicken's
It,
coming with
this
me.
chicken's coming
Your
and bring in the
son's
cows. That's what they said. Bring in the cows.
right. I mean, and I think what another thing that was actually rather interesting from the kids' perspective, because
Yeah.
I'm still trying to hold on to that, even though it's like I got the adult.
Absolutely.
hindsight sort of
Yeah.
history. Like I'm trying to think like his perspective.
Hmm.
He hid the gun under the mattress.
Oh, I
Like,
didn't even know it. Yep, you're right.
they're like, "Where's the gun?" And he's like, "Let me get it." And he's like, "Bah!" And which is literally like every like kid, teenager keeps like their diary, their little secret. Like
God, yes.
he's literally a kid who's just like, "I'm gonna hide it from my mom
Yeah.
under this mattress." Like it's
Right.
it's so and then whenever and it's weird because there's no transition from this because you see like the soldier like drinking all the milk in a very cartoonishly
Very
big
cartoon.
gulp.
He's very cartoonish too. The way he's kind of messing with the trying to make the little sisters laugh and stuff. He's very cartoonish.
Yeah, and they're like you see them talking, and then all of a sudden it turns around and he's just like, got my hat, got my coat, and you could tell dad hat,
Yeah.
dad's coat.
Yep.
Like he's
Yep.
literally got everything packed. Like
Yeah.
is like he already knew this was coming.
Yeah,
He's
he
like,
knew
they're
this
gonna
was
come
coming.
for
He
the
was ready.
gun. They're gonna come for the gun, and then I'm gonna go with them. And like even they do that because they were like even like in their half-hearted way, they're like, "Yeah, mom, it's basically summer camp, all right?
Yeah. That's the
Like,
way they told him. It's
just
just a lot
like
like summer camp, like a first day at school, or
right." And that's all that does with her. It's nothing. Like
Yeah.
she knows she's not stupid.
Right.
Mom's no, mom's no,
Right.
and they know.
You're right.
I mean, obviously, her husband's at war. She survived another world war.
Right.
Like,
Hmm.
and then it's just funny because they're like, it's like summer camp. And he's like, yeah, like an adventure. Like, yeah, like we're going to go get those bad guys.
Yep.
And
That's
like, there's going to be a montage. Like,
yep.
he sees it still from that, like, sort
Mhm.
of like there's gonna be jumps in the story, and then they're
Yeah.
gonna like something's gonna come in at the 11th hour. We're gonna rescue the village,
Yep.
and we're gonna be the heroes,
Yep.
and I'm gonna be part of it
Yep.
with my big ass hat and coat. Like, and even us from like this point of like
Yeah.
history, we're just like, dude, like,
Uh, mm,
no,
no. Again, you're taking all this in, and you're just going, this isn't going to end well.
no,
And you
oh no.
yeah, and again, he's just so naively young.
And
And I
he's
think we've all kind of
smiling.
had that sort of weird fascination with the army. And when you're young, you're like, I'm going to play guns or, cops and robbers. You kind of have
I
this.
wanted to be a Marine at one
Yeah.
point whenever I was younger. Like that was me. I'm
Yeah.
like,
And then it was just like, oh, okay, this is not what I think it is.
like,
No
oh
offense to
no.
anybody part of the service that are listening to this or watching it, but it's not for people like us, Jared.
Right. I couldn't even get into sports. You know how it was.
Oh
They're
no,
just like, you gotta do this. And I'm like, no, you don't understand.
I
I'm a
don't want
nerd.
right. I just want to read. So,
I just want to
um,
read and watch movies.
right. One note that I took, and it really struck me, and I double started, is before they throw him out of the house, he goes, "Breathe deep, boy," and he throws him out of the house. There was that one,
Yeah.
yeah. And it just says so much where it's like breathe in your own home because you're not coming back almost. You know what I mean? Like take in
Yeah.
all your
Like
smells of your
that.
mom cooking, your mom's scent, your sisters, and he just goes, breathe in deep, boy, and he throws him out of the house and he rolls.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, like it just hit me like a ton of bricks when you said that.
Like like you learn to swim.
Yeah,
Like
pretty much. Yeah. Oh, and then at the last part, I have the soldiers are taking their meat. Is there anything else you wanted to add? No, when he gets in the cart, the village idiot, they call him, he's got
yeah.
the bread,
Yeah.
had some in his hand. Was it bread on a handkerchief or something like that?
Something like that. Typically, they'd bring one meal for the journey,
Yeah.
at least, depending on what time of day. But
Hmm.
I think it's rather interesting that they toss them in a car because
Yeah.
they're taking animals. They're taking a cow, they're taking a chicken,
Hmm.
and they're like, yep, we're taking all the animals with, like, he's thrown in the cart to just lay there
Yeah.
as they drag him out
Hmm.
like a fucking animal.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of animal references
A
to that,
lot.
like
A lot.
just
Yeah.
chickens and, yeah,
Cows.
And like they oh, even whenever it was the twins, they were like, "Oh, yes, twins. They're probably from the same litter." Like like
Hmm.
actual like puppies.
Yeah, like
And
puppies.
even
Yeah,
the kid in the beginning,
yeah,
like whenever he's taunting him, he's got a bone in his mouth and he's
yeah,
like, "Arr,
yeah.
arr." Like there's so many.
Many animal references, right?
Yeah,
Get to
absolutely.
the camp. The boy falls in love with the nurse girl. I
Yeah,
think that
Florida.
is his first moment.
Florida.
He's kind of walking around and kind of taking everything in. And it's almost like I kind of wrote down the first day of a job because he's telling everybody good day.
Yeah,
Morning.
he's
He's all
wearing the
dressed.
suit.
Yeah, he's wearing the suit. Like he's all ready. And while, some guy's getting cleaned up from a previous battle and all, he's just like, hello, good day, hello. Like,
Right, there's people literally like in a tent over there, like literally getting like limbs like
mm,
sawed off or like cauterized and
yeah,
all this, and he's like, "Good day,
oh, good
I
day,
have this
hello. Yeah.
suit." Like he is dressed so well, and I think what is like it just seems if it was any other movie, it would be funny.
Right.
And with this one, you get kind of the sort of cosmic humor of it,
Yeah. Oh, of
but
course.
you're just like, wow, he's really out of his element.
Oh, so out, especially at that point, you see him kind of, he's, he takes in the bad. You see it on his face, like, oh, but then he kind of does a switch where he's trying to make nice of the environment. So he's like, hello, hi. And he'll see something and he just kind of goes, hi, hi. Like it's he's
Well, it's
taken,
a lot of stares.
it's a
Like
lot of
people
stairs.
are, and
Young.
so when some of those people are like looking at the camera, like at us,
Oh yeah,
they're actually looking at him, and
um,
he's just like, oh, this isn't like, a quirky band of rapscallions, and we're gonna like,
summer
stick
camp.
it to the main villain.
Right.
Like, and he even sees like Glasha,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh my god, she's gorgeous."
Hmm.
Like, and all the other men have eyes for her too
Of
because
course.
like
She's one of the few females that are in the,
yeah, and one that has only seen some of like the action. I mean,
yeah.
she looks pretty fresh face
Oh, for
there
real.
as well. I wouldn't say like that new, but I would say she's been there for I would say like a
Did
month
did
or
she
two.
say she was rescued from Germany? Was that her story?
I think she just kind of like she was supposed to go to Germany or something
Yeah.
and then got picked up and I
Yeah.
don't that's kind of the thing. You almost think like some of them were trying to escape to Germany
Yeah.
to like I don't know, like be safe there. Like if
Right.
they learn German, then they're like, "Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, like these Jews and Russians and
Right.
Americans, am I right?" And they're like, "Yeah, they're totally German." Like I
The
feel like it could be an interesting place to hide out.
the only reason I asked was because during the, I mean, we'll go into it later, the dance scene,
Yeah,
she has that sort of German ragtag type dance going on that was
ragtime. Yeah.
ragtime, yeah. And she knew the dance. So I'm wondering, I was like, did she take all that in at Germany? Was she part of German? So that's why I was wondering. I was like, is she German? Like, did she also change her name? Because it was, um,
Rosie.
yeah, I knew she was Rosie with a pocket full of posies, but they have Glasha and Glafira
Yeah.
as part of the cast as her name. So I'm wondering if there was a name change when she left from Germany to
No, I think she was supposed to go
Russia.
to Germany or
Okay, gotcha.
something. Like
Okay.
maybe they had friends
Hmm.
that were yeah, that one I feel like her story was just something that she rehearsed and just kind of like
I think,
spouted off as like a joke, like, "Oh
yeah,
yeah, totally. I'm over to Germany or something."
yeah.
When the whole
Almost like
time
a
she
child,
could
like
be
kind of
like
lying about, like just to make
she could be
friends.
running from something else.
Could be.
Like
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't hear of any of her family.
Mm-mm.
You didn't hear of any like friends who she was with. She
Right.
didn't really talk to anybody else other than the men who kept on trying to flirt with her. And the
Yeah.
one thing that she kept on always saying was like, I want to find love. I want to like bear kids. Like
She wanted that. She wanted
she
that dream.
wants
That
a
was her dream.
family.
Yeah.
She always wanted a family.
Hmm.
But yeah, and then oh my gosh, you could definitely tell he fell for her. And
Mm-hmm.
then especially whenever he was like scrubbing out the pot, like
Yeah, I was about to go into that part,
with
so
the
let's go ahead and
yeah,
when he's
go ahead.
getting out the pot and he's pretty much working all of his might. One part that was before that, she was walking by him in the woods when he was kind of holding the ground or whatever. Was
Yeah,
she meeting up with the other guy,
commander.
the commander? Was she, I guess, going in for the night with him?
Yeah.
That's what I was
I
thinking. They
think
didn't
I
quite
think
say, but
she
I think you kind of see it in their eyes during the final meeting that he was about to go and she was about to kind of stay or run off or whatever. But there was that look
she
between each
wanted
other
to
where you
be
go,
with
oh,
him.
they were she I mean, I'm just gonna say it. She may have lost her virginity to him. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Probably. She was probably
Is
in
that a
love
bit of a
with him.
stretch?
Yeah. Well, I mean, no. No, not at all because
It just seemed
I mean,
like
it whether she did or didn't, she
right.
was head over heels for him.
I believe so. Yeah.
But I think at the same time, like it's that sort of like, ooh, it's a man in uniform. Like he's a
Right.
bad boy and he's
Yeah.
like stern and he was kind of like handsome in his own way. So it's
Right.
I mean, compared to a lot of other people.
Yeah. For sure.
So at the same time, you could tell like he wasn't he wasn't dumb.
No.
Like
No.
he because whenever like to fast forward a little bit,
Yeah.
whenever the Russians were leaving camp, he
Hmm.
was looking at her and then he was looking at Flora
Hmm.
looking at her. And
Yep.
he's just like and so even though he is just like, he likes her, she likes me, but I she's not gonna make it where I'm going. Which she
Right.
probably wouldn't have.
No, she
Like,
probably wouldn't have. And it shows near the end, honestly. That's her, right? At the end with the
no.
whistle. That's not
Mm-mm,
her.
no.
Why did I think that was
No,
her?
we'll get to
Okay,
that.
we'll
We'll
go
get
into
to
it.
that.
Sorry. All
We'll
right,
get to that.
so he's scrubbing the pot.
So he's scrubbing the
He's doing
pot
his
and he's
manual labor
using
now. Yep.
pine branches. Pine
Yeah.
branches. He's
Yeah.
using
Oh,
those.
that's gotta be painful because he's shirtless in that thing.
Yeah, and the water's warm.
The water's warm, yeah.
So at the same time, it's like he's an animal. They treat him like an animal. Like that's kind of the thing that it keeps coming home. Like it feels very Orwellian, like the
It
Animal
does.
Farm, sort of
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
he seems like and they always keep treating him like a dog. So like a golden retriever, like a spaniel, like a dog that they feel is like he's a gentle puppy who could, curl up in your lap, but they didn't really think much else of him.
No, I get it. And then so then they have the meeting and just before they're about to go off,
Hmm.
he has to switch boots because his boots are nicer. And
Yes.
someone higher up now has to take his nice polished boots and he's got to wear the guy the other guy's ripped up boots and that
Yeah.
sets off a whole
I think it sets him off because he's like, you're staying at camp with the women, like
yeah,
with her,
yeah.
which it, and like, I think a couple of like elderly ones,
Yep.
like one or two of them. And
Mm,
so he's like, I'm being left behind. I
mm,
just got here and
yeah.
already
Yeah.
I'm being abandoned.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
the adventure is going on without him. And he's just like, that breaks him.
Yeah. But
And
he
at
still
least in
tries
a
to
sort
go
of
yeah, he still tries to go through the swamp to try and I guess what would you say, try to catch up with him?
no, I think he was just, like, throwing a temper tantrum.
Oh, you think
Like,
so? Okay.
as a kid, he's like, he's gonna be stuck there because even if he catches up with them, what are they gonna do? Beat
Right.
him? I mean, you already saw, like, whenever he got off that cart, from his house to when he got there, there's a
Hmm.
black eye. How did he
Yeah.
get it? Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
he probably got socked or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Might have been like a cut scene that we
Yep.
don't know. But
And then
it's like he doesn't wanna get whipped, he wants to stay in the good graces, he wants to be part of the adventure,
yeah.
but he doesn't know what to do because, well, he's a kid and he got
Uh-huh.
told, "Well, you can't go, we're leaving without you," and he's just like, "No, no, and you've
Gotcha.
made me give up my boots," like
Yeah. Yep. Oh
and
yeah.
then whenever he goes into the forest, who
Mhm.
does he see?
Yep. He sees
Glasha.
yep, she's crying. She's actually drying her tears with her hair, which I think was I was just like, wow, that's very thematic kind of thing where she's just, crying, has her hair drying her eyes with her own
Well,
hair.
that's because now she has an audience. Like, I
Good
mean,
point.
if she's
Good
seen a
point.
lot of like movies, especially silent ones around
I
that
think so too.
area,
That's a good point. Yeah.
yeah. And so it's like once she sees him and she sees he's crying, she's just
Mhm.
like, and you could tell like she was dead set on going with him
Yeah.
because like she had her hair done, she had like
Yep.
this hat on,
Yep.
she had a nice dress on, nicer than really what
But
calls for
most,
the
yeah.
situation. Let's be real.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely. And so they're crying. He has his boots and he pours out the water almost jokingly, and then they both kind of start laughing about it.
yeah,
So,
which I mean because like they're both kids
mhm.
and that's when I paused the movie and I started like looking it up and I'm just like how old is she? Cuz like
Right.
you don't even know Glosha's age.
Mhm.
He seems to be about that age too, maybe
Mhm.
like a hair older. So
Yeah.
if he's like 15, she may be 16, 17 tops, I
Mhm.
would
Yeah.
say.
Mhm.
Um, and then at the same time, like since I couldn't find her age, I was like, I'll just find the actress's age.
Yeah.
And couldn't find her birth date either. So
Oh,
I don't even know the actress's age. All I know is that she went on to do photography.
oh, that's good.
Very cool.
There you go.
Like, she's done a little modeling and she's done, like, photography. She's got her own family and everything, but
Cool.
looks like she's doing it. She even did some photography for Vogue. I was just like, "Okay, like, look at
Oh,
you
look at you, girl.
getting your start with
Yeah.
a crazy movie and then getting
Yeah.
yourself some photography."
Right.
But
So she unpacks that she wants love, she wants kids, and he's just like, she kind of goes in for a kiss, and he's like, don't come near me. I want to be a killing machine kind of situation. What'd you take in from that?
what I took from that is, like, I felt like and I the way I saw it is, 1, when she says that she wants love and to bear kids and stuff like that, she has her own story, her
Mhm.
own books that she read, and movies that she's watched if she came from like a village or a town or a city
Yeah.
like that had that.
Yeah.
Like she she wants that love. She
Yeah.
wants like to be part of her own story because she's the main character in her own story, even though we get it from this perspective.
Yeah.
If there could have been a whole other movie about what happened with her.
Right.
So she's in that movie. Like
Yeah.
to her, she's like, I'm on my own journey to find my man, and this one's right in front of me. And so she was kind of like messing with him because he is a little younger and
Of course.
he's a lot greener. He has not seen the stuff she has
Right.
as a nurse.
Yep.
And so, like, she was definitely messing with him. And I think she would have kissed him because, hell, she's probably kissed other boys in her village and stuff like that tons of times. And
Yeah.
she's just being playful. But
Yeah.
he takes it as, like, what? He's probably never been kissed before.
Yep.
Probably not. I mean,
Yeah.
you saw his village.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of
Not a
girls
lot
his
of girls there. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially his age. A lot of them are either super young or super old.
Mm. And then bombs start dropping. They
Yeah.
take back, and then all of a sudden you start getting the like almost like you're there, like your ears start ringing type situation. I
Mm,
think is brilliant. They do use a lot of great sound editing, and even
mm.
with the bomber plane going overhead, it's all, I think it's all keyboards, all synthesizers, all type situation.
Yeah, probably. Like to keep it as like a loop,
Yeah,
probably.
absolutely. Yeah,
And then but yeah, the steady cam and the coloring during that, especially like you see like the camera is very unflinching
yeah.
when it comes to like the bombing. There's no like modern like cinema, like whenever it's bombs, it's like whoa, you get
It's
the
real
shaking
chaotic
sort of
and
like
shaky.
you're there sort of thing. And with this one, you're there, but the bombs are going off and very close to you, mind you. But you're just like the camera is unmoved,
Yeah,
unshaken,
yeah,
like
yeah.
there's no like even though you're following, you're there.
Yeah. No,
And so
absolutely.
you're watching this and you're the witness to it. And just the the camera angles and the coloring was just
Oh, it's
gorgeous.
great. Spectacular.
Especially afterwards, like
Mhm.
the way the trees and like the
Yeah.
oranges
We'll go into
was
that. Yeah, with the rain, they start kind of let's see, am I getting that right? Okay, no, the rain doesn't so he starts building a tent
yes.
because it starts raining. So he gathers some bushes, builds a tent for them to basically stay the night in.
But she also saved his life.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Like whenever those Nazis landed,
Mhm.
like she's literally pulling him because he
Yeah.
can't hear,
Yeah,
like
you can
fuck
hear.
all. His
Yeah.
ears are bleeding, his nose
Yep.
is bleeding, probably a little concussed.
Yeah.
Like so she's dragging him like, dude, we gotta go.
You gotta
And
go.
like
She was
pulls
holding the
him.
gun. She was holding
Yeah.
the gun while she was running. Like, it really showed this sort of level of dominance at that moment where she's pulling him. She's actually holding his gun, and he's
Mhm.
just like, you know. So I think that
Discombobulated.
that part, it
Yeah.
really shows this sort of level of dominance in that situation where she's going, "We gotta go," and he's just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then that's when like she once they find safety, that's when she kind of just you see her sitting there just kind of hunched over with the with
Oh,
his oversized jacket over her head and she's just like and he's probably like, okay, I got my wits about me, I'm sorry, I can
right.
at least do this, here's the house,
Yeah.
like a little lean-to
Well,
like
yeah, a
tent
little
of leaves and
makeshift
branches.
house or whatever. So they start cuddling, and he says, "I'm gonna take you to my home tomorrow." So he's just
Yeah,
kind of gone.
I'm
Adventure's
done.
over. Let's go to my house. My mom will cook you a meal. Type
Shit just
situation.
got real and he's just like, you know what, um
I don't like this anymore.
oh, I don't think I want to do this. I survived an adventure, guys. I
Yeah,
got a
pretty much.
girl.
Yep.
You know what? I'm gonna stop here, Regis. Like I'm just gonna like no going further. He's
Right.
but that's yeah, that's when the stork starts
Hmm.
coming in.
Yeah, the stork comes around, which I'd still. I mean, what's your meaning on the stork? I didn't quite get.
I think that almost kind of circles back to what you were saying. Like, what does the stork do, Justin?
I mean, what, children bearing children, or you know,
The beginning, the beach
could be.
scene.
I don't know. It might
Yeah,
be. I don't know.
like whenever he was giving birth,
Hmm.
the stork,
Point. Yeah, good point. It could be. I don't know. So then,
no, with the stork, I was wondering that myself because I was just like I'm like, why is he the observer? And
hmm,
I mean it's just it's bearing children, like they bring children.
yeah,
Storks bring children. And so I'm like, I mean, I didn't research that one too
I'm looking
deeply.
it up right now. I'm trying to
He's
look up the
looking it
meaning
up
of
right now.
storks. The stork symbolizes rebirth, re reinnovation, and family protection. This profound symbolism transcends time and is present in various cultures. Symbolizes rebirth,
Maybe, and
innovation, and
family protection because that's the one thing
yeah.
she wanted, I know, and
Hmm.
he I guess maybe he wanted it in his own way. I think whenever he realized that the world's a little darker and scarier, like
Yeah.
that's the first thought he had because why? Because he's a kid. He's
Yeah.
literally a kid. He's like, um, I don't like this. This is big and scary. I want to
Yeah.
go home.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Like that's it. And so
And that's how it kind of starts with in the morning, where they're kind of using the trees to kind of take a shower, kind of cleanse themselves, clean themselves up from
yeah,
the night before.
right.
She
And
starts
it's
dancing,
just
and he kind of falls smitten for her, and he's
yeah.
kind of laughing and kind of in this sort of lovey-dovey
It's a
haze.
very fever dream type
It
thing.
is. It is.
Like,
There's a lot of the sun and the rainbow. There's a whole lot of
it was
real.
very manic and,
It
like,
was.
even with the audio, like,
Mhm.
they and the music, it was, like, reverberating.
It was.
So
Yeah.
there was, like, a slight, like, echo
Mhm.
and they were just like, "It's gonna be okay," like, plaster on that smile,
Yeah.
like, they're trying to literally push past like everything that just happened.
Does
Like,
happen. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're just like, guys, it's okay. Like, we're gonna be fine. We're
We're
gonna
gonna
go
be
to the
fine.
village.
He's like, oh boy, because then it goes in the next scene where he goes back home
Yeah,
and he's on these makeshift crutches. I guess
yeah.
he wants to kind of come home in this sort of like, I've done my part in battle. Here's my little injury. And he's kind of on these makeshift crutches, and it
Do you
does
know
no
why?
good in the future.
Do you know why he's on crutches?
No.
Because he's still hiding the gun in his pants.
Is that what it was for?
Yeah, because even in the first part, like he hid it down his pant leg whenever he
Yeah.
was walking home from the beach.
Oh, I
And
forgot
so
about
that's what he
that.
was doing is he was hiding it like he was so scared and did not want to be like mistaken as a soldier
Yeah.
that he put it down his pant leg and hit it and used crutches to make it seem like he's got a broken leg. He's a kid who probably fell down off a tree and like broke his leg and he's like, I'm just gonna go home, Nazis. Please don't murder me.
Oh my God.
Like,
I didn't even thank you, man. Thank you. That's
because the
yeah,
first time I saw it,
yeah,
I didn't put two and two together. And then
right.
whenever I saw it, and it's kind of a blink and you miss moment because
Yeah,
whenever he comes in the house and she's like looking around, like he reaches down and he pulls it out like real quick. And
gotcha.
I'm just like, oh, okay, so that's what it was.
So he gets home, and usually, if there's a village, there's people out and about doing their business. No one's outside.
Right. Nobody.
And what was on the ground? Was it like a sheet,
It looked like a pillow or
a
something.
pillow, or a
Like
sheet?
maybe a sack full
So
of
he,
like something.
yeah, so he goes inside and realizes the house is empty, but the fire's still on, and there was something.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he said it was still warm, like the food was warm, but there was still like smoke coming out of
That's true.
it.
Yeah. You're right. You're right.
So he he goes inside and he sees that his sister's toys are on the ground
Like in a row,
in a row. And I think
which
that
I thought was interesting.
it was interesting and really set the path for what is to come.
Yeah.
And they're both kind of like taking in the environment, but he's almost like, oh, they're just out. They're out.
Right. He's he's like, "No, I'm home. This is my safe spot. This is
Yeah,
like where I always come and I'm supposed to get hit by my mom
yeah.
because, I almost got myself bombed to death and everything." And it's like he's just waiting and he sees it, but he's not
He's not
looking at it.
taking it in. Yeah, he
He
sees it,
yeah.
but he's not listening. You know what I mean? There's a version where it's like you can hear it, but you're not listening to what you're hearing type situation. So
Right.
he so she sits down. Are there fly sounds in the background? Was I
There's
hearing that?
flies on the potato. There was
That's
like
what it was.
potatoes kind of
Yeah,
scattered, and there was flies,
flies because I
and
saw
she's
them kind of.
she's registering all of this.
Yeah, she's
And,
really taking everything in, and he's like, "I got soup."
and yeah, well, he's like, they're out and about.
Yeah,
I'm just
so
gonna
they're
get
gone.
some
They'll be
soup.
back. Yeah,
It's still
yeah,
warm,
it's still
which
warm.
it's
Let's go ahead and eat.
probably
She'll be here.
burnt.
Yeah.
It's probably burnt and condensed and
Well, then
probably not great.
at that moment they're eating, and I don't know if she smells the smell of death or the flies, but she goes "Blah," and just spits
I
it up. I
think
don't know.
the reason I think she did that, you can't smell the smell of death if the food's that fresh, or
Mm-hmm.
at least there's still smokestack and like the potatoes are still like even though they're scattered,
Mm-hmm.
they were still cooked all right.
Yeah.
Like maybe a little dehydrated. So like this just happened.
Yeah.
He's only been gone for I think a couple of days, 2 or 3.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And so whenever he comes back, like he's still like I think this whole movie only takes place like in a short span of
I
time.
think so too, yeah.
And so whenever he brings it, like the soup might have been cooking for like the past day or so. Like
Probably, yeah. So it's
so if it's
actually
that warm, it's probably
meat's
like
gone bad.
burnt.
Yeah.
It's probably burnt and then
Yeah.
like the soup kept on just evaporating more and more.
Yeah.
And so it's probably like super salty and super
Mhm.
thick And if she's the type who like came from a pretty decent household to where she was able to see movies and like, act them out and stuff like that,
Mm.
she probably came from a little bit of money where he didn't.
Oh, right,
And so she's probably not used to food like that. I mean, she
right.
probably thought the camp food was like slumming it. But with
Mhm.
this and it's been cooking for like 24 hours,
Yeah,
then she might have been like and she was starving at that point too because they haven't really had anything.
yeah,
But she was trying to be strong with that first bite, but man, that second bite she probably chewed on something was like
yeah.
ugh,
But
just ugh.
so he gets up and
Yeah,
he goes outside. I think he has this sort of moment where it sets in, and but he still doesn't want to face reality. So he
no,
thinks he
he
knows where they're at.
even sees the stork again.
Yeah,
And he's like looking around, he's like looking down the well, he's like, I don't
yeah.
see anything in
The
the
well,
well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And so I guess is that the point where he goes back in and he goes, I think I know where they are,
yeah,
and he runs. And at that moment, Jesus Christ, she turns
yeah,
around and sees the pile of bodies behind the house, pretty much stripped naked, just a pile of bodies. And she's just like, oh my God. And he didn't see it. He's just naively running,
yeah.
but
He's
she
just
sees it. She turns around and just behind the house is just an abomination. It's the most intense thing I've ever seen in a
yeah,
movie. It
it's
just was
it's
like
a it's a
it really
pretty
sets
big.
in. Yeah,
I think what's so intriguing about that is that it's a 5-second take.
it is. It's
And
quick.
you don't even see it up close. You see
No,
it from a distance
distance.
going further away from it,
Yeah, you're
and
going
you
away
just
from it.
see.
Yeah,
And so your brain has enough time to register like what it is. And then once the camera turns away, your brain's like, oh my God, the angles. And so your brain is making it bigger and grosser and probably
yeah,
more mangled than it probably
absolutely.
was on the set.
Yeah,
But
because
yeah, 5 seconds is all it took.
that's all it took, and it stays in your brain for a long time.
Oh yeah, still
And
there.
so for her, you're kind of getting it from her perspective, where she sees the madness, and he's still running,
Yeah.
not even
Oh well,
really
and that
going.
I
I
think
think I
that
know what it.
that breaks something
Yeah,
because she's just like, okay, I'm going to a village. I got this guy. I'm gonna have a family, sisters, warm food, and then all of a sudden she sees this big, huge pile of bodies
yeah,
just like stacked haphazardly against the side of a wall.
yeah,
And as far as she knows, that's the whole village, and they're running towards nothing.
yeah.
So
Pretty much. So
yeah,
then, um, so he goes and struggles through a bog to get to an island of some sort.
that was hard to
That was
watch
it was a hard walk.
because like that bog was thick.
Thick.
The layers of mud
Yeah.
and just algae and growth
I'm
and
surprised they didn't
they
fall over at any point. I mean, I'm sure they
they
probably
were
did.
malnourished and exhausted. I'm surprised. And if the and they're walking through it. So like you have to think like there's mud under them. There's
Oh,
mud right
yeah,
there.
yeah, right there.
Like
Yeah.
and so you know that it's pulling and sucking at them
Yep.
and they're like having to fight like she's
Like through it.
fighting her dress
Yeah.
and like everything and her mind just snapped a few minutes ago because she's literally in fight or flight mode and
Yeah.
she's flighting and she's probably trying not to drown too. He's having to like push through this mud because he's just like there has to be something like at this point like he's the needle like he's really on a precipice and it's like he's looking down and he doesn't know
He's
what's going
trying
to
to
be
find
coming.
a like happiness, like a way. Trying to look for something
Right.
that there needs to be that. Ah, everything's okay,
Yeah.
but doesn't at all get to that point
No.
at all. Um, so
Because
they
he
land
hasn't
on
even registered until they get on land and
yeah,
she's she just looks at him and she's just like, they're all dead.
Yeah, she
They're
just
all dead.
yeah. And he's just like he doesn't want to accept it, but I think it sets in, but I don't think it really sets in until when so she yells at him, goes, they're all dead. I think one of the soldiers that was walking around kind of making his rounds comes up,
Mhm.
and did he took her like by her outfit and put her in the
Yeah.
water, didn't he?
No, he like shoved her and she fell
That's what
into
it
the
was. Yeah.
water. But I think what was so interesting about that, about also while they were crossing the
Hmm.
bog into that little island area,
Yeah.
was that you can hear in the background, you can hear the sound of storks, and then a couple of times you're able to hear like babies crying. Not
That's
like in the distance, but
uh,
part of like the storks and babies crying at the same time. And I was
so
like,
you
well,
think that
that's
was just like
rather.
an added effect just to kind of
I think it's like you're still like they're still. I don't know. It's like you said. It's kind of
I know what you mean.
like this like he's still so young
Still so
and
young.
it's
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
like and he's still
Childlike.
being watched.
Yeah.
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 And he's still like holding on to that sort of childlike thing until like they get onto the island with the
Hmm.
guy who comes and he's like, what's going on? And she's like, he's deaf and
That's
crazy
yeah.
and everybody's back there dead and he has not seen it.
Yeah. Exactly. And so they take him through I guess, the camp, and I guess it was whatever was whoever survived, I guess. I mean,
Yeah. It was just
the village idiot was probably the only one that survived, and they poured petrol all over him and set him on fire.
yeah, the Nazis did
Yeah, the
whenever
Nazis
they came into the village.
into the village. Yeah,
Yeah. And that's the only one that you're able to recognize. Everybody else, it's like they're part of the village, but
yeah,
it's definitely like the elders and women and like a handful of men,
yeah,
like survived barely.
yeah. And then they tell him like, when you left, everybody's left. Why did you bring? And he just even the village idiot was like, I told you not to dig. I
Yeah, the village elder, they
yeah,
always consider him an idiot, but
yeah.
at this point, you're just like, oh, he wasn't an idiot.
No,
Like he knew exactly what he
he knew
was
what.
doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he shouldn't have dug for the gun. And he's literally there with the like burned at the top half of his body saying how he's like, I went and I was begging them to please kill me. Like,
Um,
and he's just laying there on the ground, like, you don't even know if that guy lives. He's probably gonna die sooner or later
oh
from
yeah, absolutely. They don't
his
have
wounds.
modern, medicine to help with those burns.
They're at a
But
bog
his
on.
last few bit of breaths was him telling him, "I told you not to dig. I told you,
And
but you didn't listen."
I think that's what circles back to like when that drone saw that
Mhm.
gun,
Yep.
that might have kickstarted it. And I think he recognizes that because he knew he looked up at the plane with the gun in his hand and that they like might have like called back like, hey, we got troops on the ground sort of thing. Let's check it out.
Right.
And so like that's when I think it kind of hits him like that whole I told you so sort of wasn't just like a parent's I told you so.
Yeah.
And after that, we don't see the stork anymore, do we?
No. No, not at all.
Because like we and he breaks like
Yeah.
he's literally and
Yeah.
he knows like he is the cause of like all
Yeah.
this
You see
death
it
and
in his face.
destruction.
I didn't know because it looked like he had darkened under his eyes. Do you think they hit him again?
No, I think that's just I think he's literally it's just exhaustion
It's just
and
exhaustion.
probably
That's what I thought.
malnourishment and probably like who knows what he's ran into, bumped into, what he
Right.
had to go through. Like, and I think it's also part of like the aging effects for the movie. Like, he starts off all fresh faced and smooth and warm colored whenever
Mhm.
the movie starts, and
Young
then
and vibrant.
as yeah, and then as the movie continues, like
Oh, like it's so bad. It's so bad.
yeah, it gets older and older, and I think what I want to point out, at least with that part, is that he then proceeds to go and drown himself in some water and mud. Like he shoves his head into it. Like after hearing all that, he's like, "Yep,
Yeah.
this is my fault." So he goes and literally tries to kill himself.
So yeah.
And then Glasha and the rest of the village women are literally pulling him out and going like, "No."
No.
And
You
I
gotta live
feel
with it.
like that gets kind of lost in the mix of everything else going
I
around
think it
because
does. There's a lot being thrown at
your
you.
head's swimming too,
Yeah.
like seeing all this. But I
Mhm.
think with like a second and third viewing, you realize that like they already know that he's kind of the reason for this,
Yeah.
but they still aren't punishing him for it.
No. No.
Like they're like, look, it was gonna happen sooner or later, sort of thing, where it was just like it could have been anybody, it could have been anything.
Yeah.
They already sent off their men for war, so it's like it could have been any one of them.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
they're literally, I think that says a lot to the human story aspect of it. And there's a couple of other instances
Mhm.
that I think does that.
Yeah.
Shows like the strength of just like the human spirit and even like I would say the Russian people because like
Yeah.
they went through a
A
lot.
lot. A lot. Yeah.
Like especially around that time.
So much.
Um yeah, with World War II and with Russia
Mhm.
kind of doing
Yeah.
dealing with the Nazis, what a lot of them did, especially the latter part of it, was that they were pulling back more and more and more inland towards Asia,
Yeah.
and they would literally burn crops, kill animals and stuff like that, so that and then burn down homes so that way the Nazis wouldn't be able to get to like anything. Like you are looking for resources, there will be fuck
None.
all.
Yeah. There'd be none.
And then even with the director, his story, do you know his story about
Mm.
one of the reasons why he did this movie?
Go ahead.
He was like 8 or 9 years old. He was in Stalingrad whenever the Nazis were storming that, which that came with a death toll of over 1.5 million people. So he was in his own like part of Stalingrad. His mother literally was like pulling them out of bed
Yeah.
to get him and his siblings into a boat. And what they were doing is that there was like bombing and fire and all this stuff going on.
Yeah.
They literally put oil on the rivers, set them on fire, and then put the kids inside these boats, put heavy blankets over them, including the director who did this movie.
Yeah.
He was 8 or 9 at the time. He was underneath these blankets, and anytime they would try to poke their head out, she would hit them and go, "Keep your head in there because it's so hot and there's so much flames and stuff, and there's bullets flying. There's
Yeah.
all this stuff going." And he's still this 8 and 9 year old boy
Mhm.
who's very curious, and he's like sticking his head out and he's like watching as he's like floating down and just bombs and fire and all this stuff. So this story is also his story, and that's why it's very hard to say it's a anti-war movie so much as like um you could take it as one, but it's also something that he had to go through. He was an 8 or 9 year old. I think it was might have closer to 9.
Yeah.
And so, like, you and I understand this in a separate way
Yeah.
because when we were that age, what happened?
The flood in
Flood in
93.
93.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember going back to, excuse me,
No, you're good.
going back to our neighborhood
Mhm.
after that. And
Looked like hell.
yeah, we didn't know what we were going to find. You and I were really young.
We were
And like,
really, yeah.
even though mom was kind of treating it like, well, let's see what it looks like, guys.
Mhm.
That was the first time we saw
Yeah.
our home, our childhood, all the streets we would walk and everything, we
Mhm.
saw them underwater.
Underwater, yeah.
And that I remember that specifically breaking part of me.
Yeah.
And I remember crying and
Mhm.
going like, "Oh, there is no going home."
Yeah,
Like
no. Yeah.
that's
We all
something
thought
that
it
they
would
would
be
say,
we'd
"We're
be
gonna go
okay,
home."
and then we would come back.
Yeah, at that time, you and I were and Hope and everybody else, like we were literally going from like hotel to motel to
Friends' house,
inn
yeah,
to like
relatives, and
people's couches.
hmm
Like we didn't have a home. So
no,
that really, so from that perspective, I know like what we went through was pretty traumatic.
no, it was
What he went through was like
way worse.
that on steroids
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
cocaine.
Of course.
Like,
Yeah, of
and
course.
so for him to do something like this to where it's like he as the director is having to relive some of this stuff
Hmm.
as an adult, seeing it through the eyes of a 15-year-old like actor. So even
Yeah,
though he's doing the story,
yeah,
he's still going to put a part of himself in there.
yeah, of course.
And he's still going to have a part of the people that were in his life, like these
Mhm.
villagers. So that part where they're all pulling him out and they're like, no, you're not opting out right now.
Right. Yeah. No.
Like,
Yeah.
I think that's a testament to like
Yeah.
survivalism, like
Yep.
it's just like humanity. And that's just kind of one of those things where it's like he's still a child. If
Hmm.
you see a kid trying to do something like that, your first instinct would be to stop them too.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
No, no doubt, and especially at a very young age. Um, so
Sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
like
dude,
take
you're
over.
good. You're good. Please. This is what the whole pot we're kind of rolling with it. There's no
Yeah.
sort of set grounds or whatever. So then they start building like a decoy. It was
Yes.
there was a skeleton, and they were using clay to kind of mold a face, almost like of
Yes.
a Nazi,
Yes. They
and
were
then
trying
use
to make
his
it look like
hair as part
Hitler.
of the Nazi hair.
Yeah. And that, I think in a way what they were trying to do is they were trying to like just be like they're going to make an effigy. They're going to have a little fun
Yeah,
and
that's right.
like give them something to do. They already had the coat and everything.
Yeah,
Like they were going to, make this and just be a little silly because I mean, what else is there for entertainment?
not much.
Mud,
Yeah,
trees, a
yeah,
breeze.
yeah,
Like and so they were just being playful with it. And it was so weird that they took him and they cut his hair off.
yeah.
They put it in the mud to make it black,
Yep.
and then they took his hair and put it as like the hair and the mustache.
Hmm.
So I think part of that, even though they were like, hey, you're part of this, you're helping and you're part of us, he
Yeah,
still sees it as like, wow, I really am the villain to this. Like
right.
he's going to internalize this so hard.
Yeah.
And it's definitely that is breaking him and like aging him.
Oh,
Like
quickly.
at an accelerated rate.
Yeah, quickly and
Like even though it's like a bit like Oscar Wilde sort of like he may be his own painting and he's like aging rapidly from like fresh face to like old face by the end,
oh
but
yeah.
it's like you just see it. And the way that that 15-year-old actor was doing it, it's like what kid wouldn't if you like are the reason why half your village is gone,
Right.
including your mom and your
And
two like younger siblings that you love deeply,
yeah.
like you're going to internalize that. And he may try to like keep pushing forward, but this broke him
No, it
like
absolutely did.
deeply. That's why there's no more like, hey, there's no more stork. Like
No, no more stork. So we've already no stork. So the childhood is gone.
your childhood is dead.
Oh, yeah, it's dead. No. But so then they go on a mission to get, I guess, bring back food, salt,
Yeah,
bread,
like a
and
cow
bring
and
back, yeah. So then they go to try and do this I would say it's a cow robbery. And the bomber that or the bomb that drops, and I think it kills one of the soldiers, right?
two.
Two soldiers, that's right. And one of them had a you see his leg blown off.
It was the one that was holding him back too, and it certainly
Yeah.
did.
And then they thought there
But
was another bomb coming, but it turned out to be a booze bottle because they're just drinking and bombing up there, apparently.
right, well, they're drinking and then throwing it out the window.
Mhm.
But to rewind back a little
Yeah,
bit to
go ahead.
where like he was broke on the
Hmm.
island.
Yeah.
There's again. that animal sort of reference because he's literally like glass-eyed, just staring
Hmm.
off into the distance,
Yeah, yeah,
thousand
that
yard
moment, yeah.
stare sort of thing.
Hmm.
And Glasha is literally sitting next to him, like feeding him like clovers and
Yes, thank
grass.
you.
And
That's right.
he's
I
like
have to write that.
slowly like
Almost like cow-like.
seeming on cow-like,
Yeah,
very sacrificial cow, sort of
yeah,
wink wink, like
right.
so he went from childhood to being like a sacrificial cow.
Yeah,
Like he's a cow that's literally just not there. He's a little numb at the moment, just
right.
eating the grass
Just
and
eating the grass,
just
just in this sort of element where it's nothing, like just nothing.
nothing. It's just
Right.
numbness.
Yeah, just numbness. That's the word I'm looking for.
Right. And then what do? They go out on a mission to go get a
Yeah,
cow.
and so he's like
He's like, I gotta redeem
he's
myself.
got to recoup, and so he goes on this mission to get a cow. I guess
Mm.
they come up on this old man. I guess he was getting out, and so I guess he was going to go out and use the bathroom.
Yeah,
And
well he owns the farm, I
I was going to say he
think.
owns a farm, so yeah,
Like
they're
I think he's the one
going,
who
hey,
owns
go
the
get the cow.
farm.
Yeah.
And there's also like Nazis there. That's why they're just
I was
like,
wondering
dude,
if that is that why they were trying to be kind of quiet, because I knew there was an
yeah,
element where there were Nazis, or they're still, because then they come later.
right. So basically, like whenever they're approaching, and I was watching the movie
Yeah.
last time with earbuds in.
Oh,
So
okay.
like
Okay.
I
Yeah.
got a little bit more ambient sounds.
Yeah.
And so like you hear like cows, pigs, but you also hear talking of like Nazis
Oh, it's
coming
German,
from
Yeah,
inside the
German
house.
talking. Yeah.
And so that's why they're like, dude, you need to shut the fuck up. Like we're stealing your cow. And they're like literally making fun of the guy. They're like they're even like,
Rolling
dude,
around in the
you're
horse shit. Yeah.
the hinges on your door need to be oiled, my dude. Like they're literally just like throwing shit on the guy as
Yeah.
he's literally rolling in horse shit.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
literally go roll around in this horse shit.
Yeah.
You're standing out too much. and, and then that's when they take like his cow and they literally just start like trying to run away.
Hmm. And then I guess some was it the flare that happened first? And then
Uh
they saw the light, and then they're just firings coming from all sides.
yeah, he thinks he got away from them.
Hmm.
Um and then that's when like they're like, oh, we're at a good distance, like nobody's
Hmm.
followed us thus far.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, and they
right,
start drinking the cow milk.
right, my
And so
belt's
they're trying
digging
to
into
share in
my
that moment. They're trying to share that moment with the cow milk, and then it's almost like once a good moment happens, something just messes it all up.
right. Like the one good thing
Yeah.
is that it's like he's finally getting some milk.
Yeah, like a
And
mother's
he's
milk. Yeah.
just yeah. And he's just like, oh, this is so great. And the guy's even like, look, you could get drunk off this, which if you're malnourished and you
Yeah.
got that whole milk,
Yeah.
it literally makes people like sluggish. Like
Yeah.
it's so like
Makes you, yeah,
full
you get
fat,
milk
all the
drunk.
sugar. Yeah, like
Milk
it's
drunk.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, and as they're like searching for food and stuff, you still hear the droning of
Yeah.
like the plane
Yeah.
sometimes overhead, especially whenever you're listening. I'm guessing like if you were in a theater or
Hmm.
if you were like listening on earbuds like I was,
Yeah.
like you can still hear like the droning. So it's like you're still being watched, you're still being looked after. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be the same one. It could just look like the same one.
Right.
But it's like you're being followed. And even if they're not hearing it, we're omnipresent. So
Yeah.
like we're everywhere. We can
Yeah.
hear it. Like
Yeah. And I think a lot of that's just a warning. Like it's almost like, oh, something's
yeah.
gonna
Oh,
happen. It's
that
almost
makes
like,
sense. Like a
yeah.
score for like
Yeah.
foreshadowing.
Or even
That's
like during like if you watch Paranormal Activity with
yeah.
your
Mhm.
headphones in, you'll hear anytime something bad's about to happen, you hear this sort of frequent, like a buzzing frequency where it just goes, and then you hear it, and then you're like, you start to kind of go into this anxiety, whatever like the frequency level of anxiety is, and
Right.
at that point, so it feels like the bomber is just kind of like something's about to happen, like, like a
Right,
warning.
like,
Yeah,
we're watching, like,
yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
when you know, like, something's going to happen.
Yeah. So
And
then the
that's when all of a sudden it's like flare and then
flare and then just fire and fire, and so they're trying to dive for it. His I guess he called him his uncle. It was the
yeah,
fellow soldier that he was with, got shot in his and dies.
yeah, which they call him uncle because like
Yeah.
whenever you're in small villages like that, everybody's like auntie, uncle,
Yeah, of course.
like
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, I knew
And
there was no relation. So
I what um and just like fun fact, a lot of people might have already known this about the movie. If you've seen it, if you haven't, why are you still watching this? You have no
right.
idea what's
Go
going on.
watch it. Yeah. No.
Go watch it.
What
We're
do you
just
think?
literally
Come back
assuming you've
later.
seen
I'll
this
have it on
movie
I'll
too.
have it on YouTube, so it's okay.
Yeah, just come back later. But they again, child, a 15-year-old is doing this movie.
Yeah.
Live ammunition is literally
It's
being
literally, yeah.
shot above and
There
like at and towards.
Yeah, there's no
Like
fake
there's
nothing.
artillery shells, there's bullets, everything that you're seeing on screen that is literally like in the background, like they're getting shot at. Like
Yeah.
you need to realize that this kid is literally so whenever you're seeing this kid like having those sort of like eyes and reactions and stuff, like dude is literally living
Living
this
it.
in his own way. It's
Yeah.
you're not like faking this. Like I know people were talking like god sometime back whenever it was like you've seen like Godfather, right?
Of course, yeah.
And you know when the dude like wakes up in bed and there's a horse head there?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. All right. The actor didn't know that was an actual horse head. And so whenever he realized that the scream was real, like, dude, what that guy went through, nothing
Nothing. Right.
comparison. Like
Right.
that
Yeah.
15-year-old like Russian kid is literally being
Getting
shot at,
shot at. Yeah.
being made to go through the mud, like almost drowning. Like there's so much he's gone through. And so
Yeah.
it's like whenever he's this character, he is that character
Yeah,
in
for
my
sure.
eyes.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, I think so
the
too. Yeah.
stuff he's going through.
The kid has gone through so much trauma with the movie,
Right.
still following him around all of his life at this point.
Right, and then, the cow is legit dead.
Yeah.
The
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 cow
director's
died.
just the
Dead
director
cow.
even
There's a dead cow.
yeah, he's like, "Yeah, we're killing the cow." So whenever you see the cow get shot in the movie, yep, those
It got
tracer
shot.
bullets are killing him,
And
so
not just that, but he gets mad and he's thinking he's going to try and cut off the leg of the cow. He's
it's
literally
like
taking his flimsy little pocket knife and just going, trying to do something. I don't know if it's out of frustration or out of like a survival moment,
he's
but
trying to
he's
bring meat back at
trying to bring
least,
me back, right?
but he
So,
can't because it's
yeah,
like, how mu and that kid is literally doing that to an actual dead cow.
animal, his tiny little pocket knife just going, and you're just like, oh my God, like,
You're like, he's literally trying to, like
yeah,
they're
cut
telling
the meat
this
up.
kid to like
Yeah,
so like yeah just take it a step back. It's like they're literally telling this kid like yeah try to cut can you
yeah,
try
go
to
ahead and
cut
try and
off
cut off a
some
leg.
yeah can you try to do that but and
Yeah, the director's like, yeah, go ahead and try and cut the leg. Cut the
he's
leg.
like,
That little cone.
guys will literally make a whole World War II movie instead of going to therapy. So they will
Yeah,
literally guys will literally make some kid try to
that's
chop
exactly
off
what
like
it
a
is.
dead cow's leg instead of
Right.
going to therapy.
And
Like
he's just like, now you know. Now you
now
know.
you know. Now you know. The kid's like, "Oh my god, I hope that paycheck was worth it."
Oh, I hope it's worth it.
But
So,
that's when he starts going to the like a nearby farm and he's just like, "I'm going to take your cart."
So anyways, he falls asleep right next to the cow, and then he wakes up and he walks. It's very
He
foggy.
tries to cut that's when
Yeah.
he wakes up tries to
Oh, is that what it was?
slice off some meat
That's
and
right.
he's like, "Yeah, that's not working."
Yeah. So he tries to go and snatch up some guy's cart, and the guy's like, "Whoa, hey, what are you doing? Hey!" And he's just like, "I'm taking it. I got to take meat back. I'm taking it."
Yeah.
And then at that point, I think they hear like tanks and German automobiles or whatever.
Well, before that, he started reiterating some words that one of the soldiers said like whenever the guy's just like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm taking it because I gotta like feed these people. These people are counting on me. You could just keep sitting around doing nothing while the rest of us are fighting.
That's what it was. Yep.
Which is
Right.
what something that a soldier said much earlier in the film. And
Yeah,
I
I
was
think
like,
he's just
oh,
yeah,
starting to parrot, aren't we?
yeah,
Like,
right.
and
So
that's when you start, and the guy's just like, shut up. Like, do you hear this?
yeah,
And that's the start of the third
yeah.
act.
So then it starts where he's hiding his military or army, whatever you want to call it, his gear, his gun, all that because he doesn't want them to think he's a soldier. They want him to think that he's a kid or a teenager.
Yeah.
Get out of the situation. So the guy, the person he tried to take the cart from, is now trying to save his life. At
Yeah.
the
Because he's a whole ass child.
yeah, he's a kid. Uh, let that
Like,
sink in. Every time you watch this movie, whoever's watching this, if you haven't watched it, watch it. He's a kid. He's a
yeah.
kid.
And that guy's literally, he literally had somebody, like the person that he's supposed to be acting as was a kid who
Yeah,
drowned
yeah,
like recently. He's
yeah,
like, this is, you're my grandson, you're this person. And he literally starts rattling off names of like, this is your mom, these are your sisters. And
yes,
it's like,
yeah,
you're hearing names.
yeah,
Like these aren't just like, these are people.
yeah.
Like, this is your siblings, these are your sisters,
Yep.
these are
He's
your
trying to play it off.
cousins,
Yeah.
this is your mom. And
Hmm.
so it's like he's getting there and they're like getting into the house and everything. And you hear
Yep.
the Germans coming
Yep.
and it's like
Hmm.
you're hearing more. And he's pointing out people. This is so and so and
Remember
so and so.
this? Who's this? But this is Bo. But yeah, he's just yeah, he's trying to he's the one who's trying to keep everybody
Right.
hey
He's
like
trying to
alive in that
save
house.
a child's life.
Yes,
And
he's
that's
trying to
like, he's
yeah
just like, no, we will literally, you're part of the family.
yeah. Now
Like,
you're my
listen,
family. Yeah.
you're my responsibility.
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
I'm protecting you now. You're one of us.
Yeah.
So like these are this is your family now. And I'm just the whole time,
Yeah.
like the
At that
second time I'm
point.
watching it, I'm literally like, oh my God. Like it's just you're getting names of people. And it's like, how many of these fucking names
Yeah.
were people in the directors and writers' lives? And how many of these people, you gotta think a lot of these fucking adults, like a lot of these like village elders and stuff that are like in this movie, these are people who were children
Yep.
and possibly even fought in the war and
Yeah.
have lost people to this war and
Yeah.
they're like having to act it out. It's
At that,
just
yeah. You have to. You're acting out your own past trauma.
yeah, that guy who's literally saying to this actor like, this is
Yeah.
your name, this is your, like, he lived through
You
this.
lived through that.
Like that is like whenever you take a step back and you see anybody, like this is 40 years afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's just like 50 on up, even 45 on up,
Yeah.
has memories of
Has memories
this.
of going through that. Yeah.
Like they are, and that guy who he was definitely, I would say like 60, give or
Yeah.
take,
Yeah.
like give or take. So he has distinct memories of
Oh,
either like serving or like losing people. Like,
he has nightmares. He wakes up in cold sweats because of
yeah,
it.
there's a lot of people on this set,
Yeah.
including the ones who are playing bad guys and
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
who have been traumatized,
Yep.
who've literally like this is either cathartic or this is like hard for them to do it.
Yeah.
And so like
Yeah.
I'm watching this like just mentally like saying to myself like I'm validating you, like I see you,
I
like
see you
you
and
are
I
all
feel you.
people
We're
who have
here.
dealt with this, like
Mhm.
I see you.
Yep.
Like most people see it as like a movie and they're focusing on the story.
Right.
It's nice to also take a step back and go like, holy shit, you're all survivors. All
Mm-hmm.
these people are
Mm-hmm.
people who survived and they
Yeah.
lost. Russia lost a lot.
Oh yeah. No,
Just
absolutely.
that one
Oh
town lost 1.5 million, that
yeah.
one city.
Yep.
But like the countryside and everybody else malnourished
Yeah.
or sickness, like everything.
Yeah. And this is them
And their
still trying to
lives.
recover from all that. So
PTSD, shell shock, alcoholism, domestic abuse, everything that followed in pursuit afterwards, like these people have suffered through and probably still are suffering through it. And I'm
right. Did
just
this
like,
come out around the time that the Berlin Wall fell?
that was 5 years earlier
Or was it 5 years? Okay.
over in
I
Berlin.
knew it was around 80, 80 something. So I was like, so
80.
yeah, but yeah, it's a lot to take, and especially what's gonna happen. it's like when you get to a certain part of a movie, the best one I can describe was Requiem for a Dream, when everything that bad happens is now coming out at the end, like the third act type situation. You know what I'm saying?
Third act is just
This
all
is all
like
just pure
no
mayhem.
holds barred.
And so the Germans come into the house and they're trying to what? Feed them to just kind of be like, leave us alone. Here's some,
Yeah, they're like, we're just a village. Like,
yeah,
you're passing through. You're probably going to a bigger city, like over there.
yeah.
Like, we're just here. Here's some food. You guys
Hmm.
good? You guys need like a cow or
Yeah, they're
something?
just trying to be
Not
nice to
us,
them. Yeah,
not people.
right.
They're literally just like, hey, here's some food. Keep going.
Yeah,
Like, they're trying to just keep their head down and
yeah,
to just
yeah. To not be part of this thing. And then all of a sudden,
not good
they
enough.
just start coming in. The guy's making announcements. Hey, come out, bring this, bring that. And while he's calmly making these announcements, thinking everything's going to be okay, it is just pure chaos and mayhem going on the main street.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting dragged out. The guy making the announcements is like, okay, come on out with your papers and your blah, blah. And it's just soldiers pulling people out and people getting this. And it's pure chaos.
And that's a lot of what they did in Berlin
Yeah.
whenever it came to the ghettos and
Yeah.
stuff is like, you can only carry this much, like only 100 kilograms of
Yeah. Oh,
this.
and then
And,
they took that guy's watch. Do you see
yeah,
that thing? Yeah, he took it. So they're just coming in, just taking whatever they want and
yeah,
just disposing of the rest.
yeah. That's literally what they did. They literally at that point, they were just coming in. They already knew what they were gonna
Of
do. Like
course.
it
Yeah.
was already
Yeah.
like that drone
Yeah.
overhead.
The
Like
drone. Yeah.
it's
Yep.
like that's our foreshadowing. Maybe
Yep.
they didn't know it, but we knew
Yep.
it. And so that's when they start dragging everybody out and you start seeing faces and you're going to be like, remember these faces because
Mm-hmm.
they're going to come back and they're going to be recurring.
Yep.
And they're dragging people out and he's just like, guys, don't follow them.
Right.
Don't follow them.
Right.
And they're all following
Mm-hmm.
and they're just hustling them through the streets. You literally see like Nazi soldiers, one kid in each arm, like, do, 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 come on, guys, we got this. We're going to be going to a fun place. Like,
Right. Yeah.
and you think, oh, they're going to like put them on some like trains, put them in trucks, and they're going to like take them to like Katerazine or, one of the other camps or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And that's when it's like,
Just start
that's
loading in
when,
the church.
yep, and that's when they're just like, load them in the church. And it's like, that's when you're like,
Oh God.
is this gonna happen? And you're
Yeah.
like, and that's when they just start like taking everybody and they're like, oh, everybody in the church. And they're like, oh, everybody in the church,
Yeah.
not just some of
Everybody.
them. They're like,
Yeah.
everybody in the church. And so kids, everybody.
And they made
And
like a
that's
barricade, like from the church. Like there's trucks, there's dogs, and it's literally them just. No one can go that way. No one can go that way. It's all
no,
just this is it. This is your only
it's
option.
funneling. It's funneling. It's
Yeah,
what they
funneling. Yeah,
do.
that's
It's
it.
what they do to fucking cattle
I know.
into the like yeah. I'm
It
like,
is. Yeah,
if you're
it's
not putting two
slaughterhouse. Yeah,
and two together, guys, like they're going to a slaughter. They are literally cows and
yep.
sheep going to the
To the
slaughter.
slaughter.
And Florida, like being the puppy dog that he is, he's not wanting to like, you know, take them there. He's literally barking at them like, "Hey guys, we don't want to go that way."
Right.
Like
Right.
and he's literally yelling at these people who are being funneled in. He's like, "Don't go. Like
Don't
start
go.
running the other way.
Yeah,
Like
you better run. Yeah.
if you get shot, like this is going to
It
be like
it's probably going to be a more merciful death than what you're about to go through.
right." And that's when they just get everybody in there and it's just like to the Nazis, this is just fun. Like
This is just
it's
a day in the
basically
work.
a
This is a day in the
carnival.
work for them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like having fun. They're like pillaging, they're picking stuff up. They're like, there's music blaring on the
Yeah.
loudspeaker. They're just like,
They're just
ha
having
ha,
fun,
look at
taking
you, look at this
pictures.
person.
We'll go into
Yeah,
the elevator. They're taking pictures and just kind of hanging out, drinking, eating, just kind of like this is just another day. This is
yeah.
another
And
day.
they push them into the building. They shut the church doors.
And then they make the announcement. It's like you can leave, but your kids are gonna have to stay.
Yeah. And that was the one Aryan type. He was younger. He was definitely like, I think he was more or less like second or third in command,
Mhm.
something.
Yeah,
Like because whenever he announced it, the commander or whoever was general, whoever was in charge,
yeah,
didn't say anything.
no,
So he's just so that's probably something they've done with a few other like smaller villages. And
yeah,
that was a small village. It
it
was a
was a small village.
handful of buildings and a church.
Yeah, yeah, that's all they needed really was just houses and a church, a
And
place
they
of
could have lived. And honestly, these people could have lived. And he's like, "Hey, leave your kids in there and you guys can like crawl out these windows and go."
yeah,
And it was just like you're sitting there and you're like waiting
yeah,
and waiting. And then all of a sudden one of the moms is like, "You monster. You,"
yeah.
and all of a sudden everybody just
Everybody just
starts to
like
do
you
it. And even though
bastard. Yeah.
Flora's in there and he's like, "I'm going to come out." Like he comes out, a girl comes out.
Hmm.
Oh, happy 4th of July, apparently.
Right. Yeah, oh, is it?
Neighbors are neighbors are already shooting it
Neighbors
off.
already shooting off fireworks. Yeah,
First day, today's the 9th. The first one was on the 4th, and I'm
yeah,
like,
we'll
you're a
get
month
ours.
early, but happy 4th of July, guys.
Yeah, we'll
Like,
be getting ours here soon, so I'm sure. But
yay, Missouri.
yeah.
But
So
yeah,
yeah, so Flora comes out. They let him live, and then a woman and a child come out. They put the child back into the church through the window, like just
yeah, they
like
just shoved him
they just
in.
shoved him
They're like,
back. Like he
well,
was literally the smallest kid, and they're just like, "Brent," and then they
like,
start
take this
dragging the
child back.
woman by her hair.
And that is the woman you see at the end.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
is
is that
like,
what? Okay.
and so she's blonde. She's kind of like I would say a surrogate for
Yeah.
Glasha
Yeah.
because you see them just one of them just dragging her by the hair and
By the hair
pulling her
in
for
Poland.
several yards.
That there's no
And
faking that.
yeah, I'm like, I don't
That
know
that
how they
really
rigged
happened.
that. I feel like part of that did happen. Maybe she had a wig on or something. I
Maybe
don't
I don't
know.
know. I'm like, how do you
I'm
fake that?
that's part of me that's just trying to like rationalize it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're trying to
But
go.
like
This
if they're
can't be as
shooting
bad as what
cows
I'm
on
seeing right
set, like
now. Yeah.
and so like they're just dragging her. And then he goes up to the commander and he's just like, "What say you?" And the commander's like, "To the right," which means like she's safe.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Safe. Yeah.
safe,
Yeah.
which is where Floro was. So like he's safe, but he's like losing it. Like his brain is starting to short circuit. He's in fight or flight mode. He's
Yeah.
trying to figure out what's going on.
Hmm.
And that's when they start like, opening fire on the church, like
Just
bombs,
dropping in. I guess there were more or less grenades at first. Like it's literally anything by the
grenades.
window. It's just they're being blown. They're being blown
Right.
up because it was just grenades at first, and then it was I think they were doing
Molotovs
Molotov cocktails, and then the guys with the fire
with the flamethrowers.
flamethrowers just it was just like oh god yeah it's just
Yeah. And
mayhem.
then and then they just keep doing it. And
Yeah,
they're just like, "Yay, let's eat food and play some music and take more pictures."
yeah,
And
they're
it's
taking
just like you
pictures,
hear the
dancing around.
screams
Yep.
and like the doors of the church just being
Yep. Just
shaken
hear
and
them
stuff.
shaking, yeah, to get out. Yeah.
And the girl's getting dragged away and like she's like screaming.
Yep.
And like Flora, you're seeing everything from his perspective. Like they'll still do like sweeping shots of like everything that's going on, but anytime he's in frame, you're seeing him dead on, like the way you are seeing me right now, the way we're
Yeah.
seeing you right
Yeah.
now,
That whole
is like you're seeing his eyes. And
yeah.
it's just like he's like there's creases, his hair's going like white,
Yeah.
like there's blood, there's just, and he's just like, there's something that
Yeah.
snapped.
Yeah.
And even whenever they posed, this is the second picture he posed for because the
Yeah.
first one's in the beginning with his nice suit
It's
that he
nice
looked
little
too good in.
yeah.
And now he's posed for another shot in front
Yeah,
of a
so
burning
let's yeah, I
church.
forgot about bringing up where they had the in the beginning when they were all at the camp, they kind of posed this nice shot of everybody like in the back, like they set up the camera. The guy was jokingly wearing like a Hitler mustache and a hat, and then there was a
Right.
cow there. It was almost like jokingly fun,
Yeah.
but
Like
it's
you
not
would in like a photo, like place where it's just
Yeah.
like pose for the
Yeah, it's
family
like a glam
picture.
shot. Everybody kind of pose for the camera, and then it goes when you're at this village. It's these soldiers just holding him, putting a gun to his head, and then they're just like, and he doesn't know if
Yeah.
he's going to get shot at that point. He doesn't know if he's going to die. He doesn't know what's going to happen, and you just see this moment stop for him where he's going,
Well,
yeah,
even in you as the audience, you're waiting, and then whenever he's like pressing the barrel into his head,
yeah,
it's
into it.
not being like set there; it's
No,
being
it's
jammed to
pressed.
where it's like,
And the dude
and
has his hand on his like head, and it's literally just it's
and then he cocks the gun,
yes,
and what you're waiting for is the
a
pull,
boom.
but
Yeah.
the only trigger that you hear is the snap of the
Like,
camera.
yeah.
So it's like click, boom, and that's when like after that, like he just crumples,
He
and
just
they
crumbled.
walk away. They're like, "Cool, we got our
We got
picture."
our
Like
picture. This was it. Bye bye.
they're
Like
like,
it
"Here
was
you go, animal. You're free now.
yep,
Like you got out of the fucking like butcher.
yep,
Like you got out of the factory. Like
yep.
you're good now.
Yep.
We're super nice guys.
Yeah,
Like
we're
we
done.
are
Bye. Yeah.
taking mercy on these fucking animals." And
Exactly.
then but the problem was like as they're leaving, that girl that they dragged by the hair that
Mhm.
she got out of church, they shove her. Like a group of them throw her into a truck that's driving away, and
Yeah.
you just hear screaming. They're like laughing and
Just
like all
laughing
this
and ravishing because you just know once
horrible things.
yeah, and so at that point, um Flora's left behind and he goes and he gets his gear from under the
Yeah,
haystack
which
and
is which is interesting because he grabs two sets mm, of um of bandages,
mhm, and tries to
and he
bandage up.
goes and he wraps it around his gun.
Mhm.
None of the wounded people.
No.
It's just like he's still trying to like that gun is like his, I don't know,
To save one, and
sanity,
he never
his
uses it. He never.
he
It's the.
never
I was
uses it.
laying in bed going. He never used the damn rifle.
Never, well, he uses it once.
Oh yeah, okay, but yeah, we'll get to that point. Yeah,
We'll
so
get to
that
that,
comes
but
later. But
but
that's the only time where it's like
yes. And I think that's kind of the point is
I
that
think so too.
yeah. And
So
but so like he's following after them. He's just like, "You know what? I'm going to follow this caravan." He's
yeah,
literally like he
I'm in
doesn't
for the
know what
ride
else
now.
to do.
Yeah,
I'm going to follow these Nazis with
yeah,
this rifle.
yeah.
So I think at this point he's like, I've got no reason to live. I'm gonna go fucking shoot somebody because they're probably gonna kill me too.
Right.
And
So then,
so like he's
uh,
going,
yeah,
and that's when he stumbles across the first bit of mayhem.
yeah. So then, hold on. Was that the part where she's blowing the whistle?
No,
Was that
that's not
later?
it.
Was that
Because that's
after the
later.
bridge? Am I
Yeah,
okay,
that's
that's right.
the first thing he sees is the overturned motorcycle with
Okay.
like there was like a lady with like her shirt open and like
Okay.
some other like dead guys
Yeah,
there. It was a lady who was in the truck like earlier, like 5 minutes earlier, eating like crawfish.
that's right. That's right. Okay,
And
yeah, that's right. So then
so she was one of the Nazis.
so then he goes up and I guess it's the under the wooden bridge moment.
Yeah, it's starting to get to that point
Yeah.
because like he goes over to the motorcycle that was overturned and he
Yes.
grabs the fuel tank and
Yes.
he's
That's
like,
right.
"Let's
Yeah.
go."
Yep, let's go. So he grabs the fuel tank and he goes to where I guess a lot of the Russians kind of surrounded this. It's like underneath a wooden bridge, and I guess they captured the head people of the Germans. Am I right
Yeah,
on that?
well, it was the group that was leaving that just burned down
Yeah,
that village
yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
were overtaken by
by the
the
Russians.
group
Yeah,
that was from the beginning of the
yep,
movie.
yeah,
They surrounded them, they
hmm
killed them, they got the rest of them. The Nazis tried running away under the bridge,
yeah,
and that's when they got surrounded by like those troops from earlier in the movie, and you see
yeah,
that commander
yeah.
again.
The commander again. Yeah.
Not really like surprised to like see him,
hmm
but and he's not even surprised to not see Glasha either.
Right.
And so he's just like he looks over and sees them, and he's just like, "Yep,
Yep, that's it.
that looks about right." Like
Yep, that's
he's
about it.
literally just wrinkles. His
Mhm.
face is just pale and
It's
like
pale, yeah.
ghost white
He ages.
blood.
Ages throughout the entire movie.
Right.
Yeah, it's insane. And so the Germans, they don't want to take responsibility. They're actually fighting amongst each other. Say one of them claims that he's old and sick, and the other one's like, "Oh,
That
I'm
was
not
the
really."
commanding
Yeah,
officer.
he's like, "I'm not really a German." There was this whole thing.
Yeah, there was one guy who was just like, "I'm old and sick. I'm just doing this because it's a job."
Right? Yeah.
And that was the commanding officer. Then you got the other one who was translating, who might have actually been Russian
Yeah.
and was just like taught to, he's just like, "You're Russian, but you're a Nazi now." And he
Yeah.
definitely took part in some of this
Oh,
stuff. And
definitely.
you see
Absolutely.
it. You
Yeah.
see it.
Oh,
And
no,
so
yeah.
this guy is taking other stuff. And
Yeah.
so he's just like, "Guys, I'm one of you.
Yeah.
I'm one of you. These fucking Nazis,
Yeah.
like."
These Nazis, right? Yeah.
And
And,
they're literally like calling you and they're like this fucking like pig and
yep.
this rat, this the and the again, animal terms. This
Yeah.
rat, this
More
pig,
animals.
this
Yeah.
this
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden the Aryan guy from earlier
Yeah.
who was outside of the church window saying, "Hey, if you leave your kids in there and come out, then you guys can live."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "You know what? Yeah, I take full responsibility for this. These fucking like old people," he's like, "they can fight. They're just as responsible as me. I
Yep.
don't care. I got nothing to lose. I actually believe in this stuff. Like this guy drank the juice."
Yep.
And he's like,
Yep.
"Listen, it starts with the children," and
Yeah.
which kind of harks back to the beginning where
Yep.
it's like they're kids. There's the stork. He's like, "It starts with the kids."
Yep.
And this is why we
Mm,
want to kill off the kids
yep.
because
Just
that's
try to
where
kill
the
the blood. Yeah.
ideas come
Yeah. The
from.
bloodline or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, once we can snip that, you guys aren't going to have any more kids. You
Yeah.
guys are too old.
Yeah. You're too old. Right. Exactly. And so I
And
guess what does he just goes, all right, you guys just kill each other kind of situations.
oh no, well, he looks the commander from earlier who, Glosha was in love with. He looks
Mhm.
over at him. He's like, "What do we do with him?"
Yeah.
And, Flora, he's got the gas can and he's just like, "Yeah,
Yep.
if you're really a Russian,
Yeah.
start dousing these
Start
guys and set
dousing
them
these
on
people.
fire,
Yeah.
just like they did with the
Yep.
village elder."
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just like, "You know what? Pay it forward."
Yep.
And so, which honestly, I didn't really like put it together until now. Like, maybe those were the same Nazis that killed his village. We don't
No.
know.
Yeah. Could be. Could be.
Could
We
be.
don't know. Yeah.
And so, and so he's just like, "Burn him." And
Mm-hmm.
that guy, the Russian guy who's just like, "I'm Russian like you, comrades."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "I'll burn him." And so he's like dousing all these people.
Yep.
And this guy, you literally see a cut of a guy running down the road with a torch.
Yeah.
Not a small one, but a
Yep.
pretty big sized torch.
Yeah.
And they were just going to light him on fire. And one person was just like, "No, we're not doing this."
Right.
And comes in and
Starts.
just lets loose and just shoots
Yep.
him
Start
because
shooting
it's
them. Yeah.
like, and even the guy with the torch is like, "Whatever,"
Yeah.
because they're not the same as them.
No. Yeah.
Another thing that harks back to like, yeah, we're in war and it's like, it's not pretty, but
Yeah.
like,
No. Right.
we're not going to burn you alive and make you suffer through
Oh,
that.
it's
Like,
not. That's
we're
not
just
us.
going to
That's
shoot
you
you,
guys.
which is like, that's a mercy. Us shooting you,
Is
opening
a mercy.
fire
Yeah.
into you right now, that's our mercy.
That's our
Like,
mercy. Right.
you don't even deserve this.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
and so it's very
Yeah.
interesting. So then they shoot him and they're like, "Cool guys, let's go."
Yeah. And that was it. And then you see Flora, is that when he comes upon a young boy, another young boy all dressed
Yeah.
up, fresh
See
faced.
him in the background and it's
Yeah.
just like, he looks just like him from
Looks
behind.
just like him. And he sees I guess the Hitler,
That
the Liberator.
the big hat, the big coat,
Yeah, yeah, he's still wearing, yeah.
the the suitcase on the back, just like him, and you're like, "Oh my god, is that a younger version of him?" And then all of a sudden you see like a front face, and
Uh,
it's just like some other kid,
yeah, some other kid. Yeah.
and it's his first day too.
Yeah, he was eager, fresh faced, and he's looking at the picture of, I guess it was the Hitler picture in the
It was
wall.
Hitler. It was the one that, like, whenever the
They were
Germans were
walking
coming into
around.
town, it was like holding it. It says Hitler the Liberator.
Yep. And so that's when
And so he's looking at that. And then
Flora
that's when
loses his
Flora,
mind and just starts shooting at the picture of Hitler.
yeah, starts shooting at the picture of Hitler.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden there's footage of actual, like, Hitler, concentration camps and everything is going backwards more and more.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets to, after like 2 minutes, 3 minutes of
Yeah.
this,
Mm-hmm.
he's just emptying his magazine into it. First time he uses the gun in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And he just keeps going and shooting it and shooting it. And the footage keeps going older and older, even like to World War I and
Yeah.
past that. And it gets to baby Hitler, which gets to the question, if you could stop, you know, the Holocaust from happening, but you had to kill baby Hitler, would you do it?
You do it.
And he's literally like, his mind is processing this. This is kind of where the movie
Yeah.
takes like kind of a step back,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not necessarily looking at this like as like a war movie at the present moment, but like a moral story
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
it's just
Yeah.
like, would you do that?
Would you
Like,
kill baby Hitler?
because they killed children. They were
Mm-hmm.
more than happy to be like, hey, keep your kids in this church. We're going to
Yeah.
burn them.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's when you see his face sort of like crumple. You think all humanity is gone from him,
Yeah.
but it's like you see
Very
tears
fine.
starting to go down.
Yeah.
And he's like, he just couldn't do it. Like,
Yeah.
he can't, as far from what he was in the beginning,
Yeah.
there's still that one vestige of humanity he still has.
Yeah. I'm just holding on to
And
it.
yeah. And then that's when the commanding officer is like, guys, we're marching.
There we go. Yep. And then
Yeah.
when it comes to that end, yeah, it's a
And then,
it's a tough movie to watch. I really
right. Well, what I think is interesting, sorry,
no,
you're
go ahead.
good.
No, please add as
So,
much as you want.
so,
You
so whenever they're leaving, you see
Mhm.
like he joins up with everybody else, and then he just starts blending in.
Mhm.
Like, you can't even, like, after a couple of moments, you don't even know who's him and who's somebody else. And then like even the kid in the background is like still there, and you could definitely tell the
Yeah, he's
kid
all
who's like
fresh, young.
first day.
Yeah, first day
But
kid.
he starts blending in. So it's like, even though this happened, he's gonna go on, and maybe he'll die.
Mhm.
Maybe he'll actually kill somebody.
Yeah.
He's finally shot the
Yeah, of
rifle,
course. Yeah.
and he knows his limits. He won't maybe kill babies or
Yeah.
children,
Yeah.
but everybody else who stands in the path, like, he's on his adventure now. It came at a price,
Yeah.
but
For real.
he's got it. And part of me wonders, because I'm as jaded and disingenuous as like I can be at times, like,
Right. Okay.
there's a part of me to rewind a little bit to like whenever he was about to leave the island, Glosha had um the baby, had a baby in her
Mhm.
hand,
Yeah.
and she's like, I'll be here, come back.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's like
that's right.
part
Yeah.
of him, I feel like part of him, like, yes, they've been through some stuff, but maybe there's a part where he will go back to that village,
Mhm.
and he will start fresh, and
Yeah.
they will start something new, which
Maybe.
I want to.
I
Which,
wait. Now we can. You kind after watching all that, you kind of hope for a happy ending at some point.
yeah, you, like, you have to hope for something, like, even to wind it just a smidge from the ending to like 5 minutes prior. That's when you see the girl with the whistle hanging from her mouth, and like there's blood between her legs. That was the
Ah,
girl that was
that
dragged by
part.
her
That part
hair.
really. It broke my heart seeing that part, man. It's
Because,
tough.
and he literally looks at that girl who is like the surrogate for Galasha,
Mhm.
and she's like, you could definitely tell she was all sorts of assaulted
Oh yeah.
in multiple ways.
Oh.
And he looks at her, and he says, I want love.
Mm.
you
Yes.
want to bear children.
Yeah.
And so it's like he sees that, and so he sees that girl and he recognizes Glasha and
Right.
he's like, I think part of him, like once he gets past all that,
Mm-hmm.
I think part of him now is just like she wants a family.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and he wants a family too. Like he's got to start somewhere, and either he can like end it, which he's
Mm-hmm.
tried and he's unsuccessful.
Yeah.
But I don't see him trying to do that again. I
Right.
don't.
Yeah.
But I see him like fighting. He'll kill people if he has to, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Part of me hopes that he will.
Yeah.
But it's weird because the ending song, as like the movie is ending,
Mm.
it's Mozart's Requiem.
Mozart, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Mozart's Requiem, which is really interesting because Mozart is German,
Yeah.
and it's an unfinished work, which
Right.
makes it almost seem like, even though the Aryan guy from a couple of minutes before, he was just like, it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but at some point we're gonna eradicate you. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, who had the most unfinished work? Who was German?
Right.
Nazis.
Yeah.
They didn't get it. They didn't succeed. And I think that's kind of the sort of like little bit of humanity that you can
Yeah.
kind of see at the end there is that even if it's a requiem, like a part of you is dead, yes, but a part of them is also dead.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
but it's like you can either take that and just like I'm done, or you can just be like, there's a rebirth,
Yep.
Justin. There's a rebirth with the stork. Rebirth.
There's the stork.
There's the stork, it's rebirth. The childhood may
Yep.
be over, but
Yep.
you know.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, it's a good movie, man. And I at some point I want to get a physical copy, the Criterion version.
Oh god,
A lot of the stuff I just been watching was online and stuff. And
same.
but yeah, did you want to move on with Machines of Loving Grace, or do you just want to cut it off with Come and See? That's up to you.
It's been about what, 2 hours?
About 2 hours?
It's up to you.
It's okay. I mean, hey, let's leave this where it is. We'll do Machines of Loving Grace when it's not something so traumatic and something that we just
Yeah.
completely just opened up and started
It
just
could be, yeah, it could be
yeah.
one of those like smaller episodes you
I think it
do
should
that's
be. Yeah,
only like
absolutely.
15-20 minutes long.
Yeah, we'll do another one where we can do let's do one where it's just music instead of
Yeah.
movie music, because especially with this one, it was I got 3 pages front and back of notes, and it's so much to take in. And every scene
Mm.
I'm stopping, write notes, and you take in a lot with this movie. And I'm telling you,
Yeah.
dude, Russians movies are the way to go. I don't know what it is about them, but man, they just know how to capture something, you know?
Right. Oh well, I mean, I always say the same thing about South Korean movies. Love
Yeah.
South.
No, I agree. I'm not singling anything out. It's just I've been on this Russian kick, and it's just
Yeah.
like, when
Right.
fucking Stalker
Do it.
here and
Do it.
yeah. So it's just one of those things. So I encourage everybody watch this movie.
If you've gotten this far and you haven't watched the movie, or if you've even just gotten this far, like thank you. Like
Right. Thank you for
I
watching.
appreciate
I
that.
appreciate
Like
it.
it's
Thank you for
like it's just 2 hours of us like, hey, remember
hey,
that?
remember
That was a good part. That was
remember that
really
part when it was just yeah, I remember that. Drinking all the milk. No, but
I
anyway.
remember when he drank the milk and all the animal noises.
You remember that dude, that him with the helmet, and he goes, no. I was like, what is he doing?
What the fuck are you doing, guy?
I know, just some crazy soldier. And he's like, we don't drink unless it's holidays, and then what was the other one? Wakes
Or awakes at
yeah,
wakes,
wakes
which
and
I'm
holidays.
like, which is like every day
Could
whenever
be every
you're
day. Yeah, that's the funny thing because he could be drunk. He could be just coming in like, and
the guy's
so
probably already half sauced
yeah.
every
Oh,
day's a week.
probably. Because even the guy was like, do you have something stronger? And she was like, no, like, so.
She's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you very much for being on my
Of
pod.
course, dude, I love it. Like,
Um,
thanks.
glad we were able
Any,
to record it and try and live stream it. I hope it was successful. I have not checked Facebook. They're
we'll
watching
find
is
out.
going,
I'm not even on social media, so I
I
have
know,
no
it's
idea.
okay.
We
So,
could have just been talking, the two of
yeah,
us,
we don't even
to,
know. So,
we don't even know. Like,
and
we're
nobody
just
was watching.
talking,
It's just you and me talking, and it'll be
talking to the universe.
talking to the universe. It's being projected out there, and maybe the
Just
aliens are watching us. We don't know. So
thank you, aliens and
thank you, aliens,
FBI.
and I hope you watch more Russian
And
movies.
FBI. Thank you, FBI and aliens.
Yeah, exactly.
Appreciate y'all.
Right. All right, man. You take it easy. You have a good night, brother.
All right, you too.
Love your face.
Just love yours.
Oh! All right, dude. Love you, man.
Love you.
You go.
You
No,
hang up.
you
I'm
hang up
trying to
first.
press the
No, you
button.
hang up. No, I'm the one that has to hang up. I'm still trying to figure all this out. All right, dude. Love you. Take it easy.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.